here, Yoga for Everybody, representing Zen Active Sports. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to practice some of my favorite yoga poses. I'm showing now the wide-legged seated forward fold pose. So why don't we join together on our mats in a seated position, and I'll show you step by step how to safely get into and out of this fabulous pose. From a comfortable seated position, let's first check in with our alignment. So, of course, we want to stack the joints and check in with our base. So in a seated position, obviously we're going to be seated on the glutes. So the bottom of the sitting bone is going to be the base of the pose. So actually what really might be helpful, first of all, is to take the glute and kind of just pull it up and then out and away from the bone so that we're establishing a firm foundation flat on the mat on the bottom of the sitting bone, the pelvic floor muscle, okay? That's going to be where we're going to initiate our core strength. And a lot of people don't realize that strengthening the Kegel and contracting the Kegel muscle is really the heart of the core muscle group. So we want to engage that Kegel. We want to engage the lower abdomen, of course, the low back, the obliques, the middle and upper abdomen. We're all working here to help keep the spine straight. Okay, the shoulders are down away from the ears, chest is open. We could even, pull the shoulders back, because a lot of times we tend to hunch forward and we don't even really realize it. So actually what we could do is first bring the shoulders up and then back and then down on the exhale of the breath. Okay, and then we also want to raise the crown of the head up to the sky. Okay, the hands can just be gently rested in the lap, wherever's comfortable. And you can have the right foot forward or the left foot forward. Really is up to your personal preference. And then after we've established that deep belly breathing pattern, remember we are always breathing from the diaphragm in yoga to establish that mind-body connection. And then we can move on into the pose. So let's go ahead and start by opening the feet to this V position. And you can experiment with it because obviously the inner thigh muscles are going to have to be lengthened and flexible in this pose, okay? But if that's an area of the body that you don't typically stretch, then maybe your V is going to be closer to this angle. And that's perfectly okay. All right? We always want to work within the limits of our body and modify the pose so that it feels good. Okay? This is not a race to see how fast we can, widen our V. But no, instead, it is about connecting that mind with the body, increasing body awareness, and of course, watching that self-talk, building up self-confidence is really going to help in yoga. But only if you're focusing on the good. So be gentle with yourself, be kind, thank yourself for even taking the time for you. And I know I've said that before, but it's very important that we always remind ourselves and thank ourselves and just be grateful for the capabilities that we have to even try practicing yoga, okay? And you know what? With that said, there's lots that we can do to even modify this pose, okay? So let's say, for instance, we have trouble coming down onto the floor. We could sit in a chair and practice this pose, okay? Here's how. You start in a seated position, you put a chair under one foot and a chair under the other foot, okay? And you have to experiment with different chairs, see which height works best for you, but generally you could just use whatever chairs you have and see if that feels better for you. Okay, because again, some of us have trouble even coming down onto the mat. So, try from a seated position. Bring those feet up on the seat of two other chairs, or maybe a bench, or maybe your bed, or a couch, or something, some flat surface, so that you can still retain that proper alignment, stacking the joints, okay? The ankles are going to be in alignment with the knees in alignment with the hips, okay? And if we are able to come down to the floor, we could sit on a blanket to make this pose a little more enjoyable, okay? So, sitting on the blanket, notice how it repositions the base, okay? So I feel much more supported. Even though I've been practicing this pose for over a decade, I really enjoy the elevation of the hips. So go ahead and give that a try, see if you like it. It helps basically keep the hips more in alignment with the knees, but takes a little strain off the hip flexors and the knees as well, okay? But with that said, we could also support the knees by putting something underneath the knee. So maybe you have a fancy yoga block or two. I just so happen to have just that. But certainly, if you do not, you could use a rolled up towel or blanket or a pillow, really anything soft and comfortable to just give a little support for the knees. Then we can point or flex the toes. We could roll the ankles. And we could just stay upright like this, okay? But for those of us who are more advanced in our practice and we want to try going deeper into the pose, what we can do is first inhale, bring the arms up, and then we'll exhale and we'll slowly hinge forward, nice and slowly bringing the hands to the mat. Well, it'll be the floor in front of the mat, most likely. So you can have both feet on the sticky mat. That's going to be ideal, okay, to prevent slipping. Then we can come down onto the forearms. Notice how the shoulders stay down and away from the ears, okay? Chest is open, crown of the head is lifting now more towards, like, straight forward, okay? And then, what also is fabulous, even if you have been practicing this pose for many years, is to give a little support under the forehead, because the final step is to hinge forward. So we're hinging at the hip, keeping the shoulders in alignment with the hips as we hinge forward. And then to make that process a little more enjoyable, we can bring the forehead to the block first, and then gradually move that block through those 3 levels, and you'll get closer and closer to the floor. Okay? So let me show you what that looks like. Again, inhaling, bringing the arms up, exhaling, hinging forward. Okay, now first bring the forearms down, keeping the shoulders down, the core muscles engaged, of course, as well. And then the forehead to the block. You can point and flex the toes again, whatever feels better for your body, or you could just keep the feet relaxed. On the next exhale, maybe we can switch to a horizontal position for our block and slowly bring the forehead to the block, a little closer to the floor. And one more level. And then finally, if we are feeling up for it, we could try coming all the way down to the mat. And after 7 to 9 deep breaths here, we can start to come up by bringing the hands slowly towards the lap. Taking a deep inhale and exhale. Okay, and then we can slowly bring those legs together. And we may want to stop with these feet hip width apart and just hang out in the forward fold. Okay, so maybe we'll inhale, bring the arms up, and then exhale with the feet straight forward. Okay, so the ankles are in alignment with the hips. This is a nice option because of the fact that we were stretching the inner thighs in the wide-legged forward fold. But with the feet straight forward, we're stretching along the back side of the legs. Okay, so we might want to hold this for a couple deep breaths before we work our way back to a comfortable seated position. Thanks for watching my video here on Zen Active Sports on the wide-legged seated forward fold pose. I hope you've been enjoying my tips and videos on my favorite yoga poses. Please be sure to stay tuned for more of my tips at www.zenactivesports.com. And thanks again for practicing with me. Namaste.